All right, so we're going to be working in a program called Adobe Flash. Adobe Flash is a neat program. You can do animations with it, but there's a few problems with it. Well, not really problems, but a few other things that are different from the Google Classroom experience or Google Apps experience. The first is that you're not going to be able to open it from the dock. You're going to have to go to the Macintosh HD, which is on the right-hand side of the computer underneath the time. You're going to double click. You will then go to the Applications folder. You're going to double click on that. You're going to scroll till you see something that says Adobe Flash CS6. We want Adobe Flash CS6, not the Flash Builder. We want Adobe Flash CS6. We're going to double click on that. And then we're going to double click on the Adobe Flash CS6 program. It's going to take a few minutes for it to open. Adobe products are slow to open, so we're going to need to give it a minute or two. Let's talk about what animation is. Animation is a series of drawings that show action, more or less. By changing the still image slightly, it can be made to look like it's moving, meaning the image can be made to look like it's moving. All right, this is our workspace. Well, not exactly our workspace, but this is the area that we're going to have to work in. The very first thing you need to know is we're always going to choose ActionScript 3.0. It may look different, but always ActionScript 3.0. We're going to select it. Now we're going to talk about some of the areas here. We have our menu bar. It has File, Edit, View, Insert, Modify, Text, Commands, Control, Debug, Window. So that's up here at the top. We have our stage, which is the white area in the center of the window, which is right here. It's where Flash movies are created. We have our timeline, which is down here. Each one of these are individual frames in the timeline. The timeline is usually at the bottom of the window. It controls when objects appear on the stage. It's made of a series of boxes called frames. Keyframes are added to the timeline in order to start and end animation. And we're going to talk more about what keyframes are a little bit later. We have our layers here. They're part of the timeline. It divides the story into different levels, meaning that we can have objects layered on top of each other. The Tools panel is right here. It's over here all the way on the right. It's very skinny. It's a vertical bar, but if I click and drag on this gray part, I can drag it over here to the left, which is my preference, and I can also make it, instead of being tall and skinny, kind of short and fat, which I prefer. The library panel is over here. You're going to put items in the library so that you can reuse them. It saves space on the computer. And we have the properties panel here, which you can change as well. Those are the primary elements of Flash. Now, the next thing that you need to know is that whenever we start working in Flash, we have to save this. The program does not automatically save. The first time you save, you're going to do a File, Save As. We are going to save everything to the desktop. It's very important that you make sure that you change this to the desktop. Oh no, I have the spinning wheel of death. So we're going to change it to the desktop. We never want to leave it untitled. We're going to title this Intro Flash. Whoops. And I'm going to save it. You're going to see that my title has changed up here. To do quick saves while you're working, you can do Command S. It will only save if you've made a change. All right, we're going to go on to working with some of the tools. These tools right here are our selection tools. These tools here are our drawing and text tools. These tools here are our navigation tools. These tools here are color tools. And these are tool options down here. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Now, if it has a little arrow next to it, or you can call it a little triangle, it means that you can click and hold down and you can create another object with it. So for example, if I click and hold down on the triangle, I'm going to get these options. We're going to primarily be using the rectangle tool and the oval tool, possibly the polystar tool, but never the rectangle primitive tool or the oval tool. So the primitive tools are off limits. Polystar tool, I'll show you how to use oval tool and rectangle tool. All right, excuse me. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to find out about object drawing mode. When I am in drawing, we have an item here that's called object drawing. It is off when it's light, it's on, it's off, it's on. Hopefully you can see the darkening difference. When object drawing mode is turned off, the stroke and the fill, which are the outline, which is right here, and the fill color, the inside color, are separate. When object drawing mode is turned off, parts of the shape can be deleted and then edited. When object drawing is turned off, it can be difficult if you have many objects on the stage to select something. If you layer objects on top of each other, they will merge together. And if you double click on the object, you will select it. If object drawing is turned on, like it is right now, the stroke and the fill are going to be grouped. When you select an object, the entire object is selected. It is easy to select objects on the stage because they're going to be separate. If you layer objects over the top of each other, they're going to remain separate, so they'll be easy to select. Alright, so let's start drawing. I'm going to go to the line segment tool and I'm going to draw a line. Object drawing is on. If I go to my selection tool, which is the black arrow, and I try to select part of this, you're going to notice that when I go to select it, I'm moving the whole line. This is object drawing on. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go to object drawing. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to draw the line. Then I'm going to come over here to my selection tool and I'm going to try to select part of it. As you can see, I've selected just a tiny part of the line. Okay? If I try to select a little bit of it, I can select just little bits at a time. If I go to draw a rectangle and object drawing is off, it's off right now. And I go to the selection tool. I can select part of that rectangle. I can also separate the fill and the stroke, which is the inside color versus the outline color. If I draw an object with object drawing on, and I try to move it, you're going to notice I move the whole object. Okay? Now, I'm going to delete all this, so I'm going to select it all. I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard, the big one. I'm going to draw a line again. I am going to make sure object drawing is on. You're probably going to notice that when I go to the selection tool, my cursor has a bit of a curve to it. What that means is I can click and drag, and I can curve the lines. If I draw a rectangle, and I double click on it, I can curve the lines. Well, it's making a liar out of me. See how I just curved those lines? This is going to be incredibly useful. Alright, I can use the pencil tool, which is this tool right here, to draw irregularly shaped objects, but I prefer to use the paintbrush tool. You can change the size of the paintbrush by coming down here to brush size. You can change the size of it. You can change the shape of it. We also have an erase tool that we can use. We can erase different parts of the character. If I want to change the color of an object, the fill color, I can click on it and select from any of the fill colors. I can click on the stroke color or the outline color and change my outline color. These are some of the basics of using Adobe Flash. Now, before we move on, I want to make sure that you know that we need to save this. So we can go up to File and Save. It's going to take a second, and then you're ready to quit the program. So we're going to end this video, and then we're going to move on to the next one.